Avistan is one of the most populous continents on Golarin, possessing a 10,000-year-old history and dozens of varied cultures and environments. It's home to the once mighty empires of Taldor and Cheliax, newer kingdoms like Multhun and Andoran, and the wild frontier of Varizia, a land once home to the magical empire of Absalom and known as the birthplace of heroes. From the demon-scarred fields of the Worldwound, to the monumental skyline of Magnamar, to the haunted moors of Ustalov, Avistan is teeming with adventures of all kinds.
I'm going down to the railway station, gonna get a ticket to ride. Find a big fat lady with 2 or 3 kids and sit down by her side.
More than 4,000 years, Absalom has been the city at the center of the world, a metropolis of incalculable wealth, culture, and prestige. Founded by Aristan to protect and enshrine the Starstone, the city rose fully formed around its massive cathedral, ready for habitation on the Isle of Kortos. Unfortunately, that also makes the city a target for greedy warlords and ambitious nations longing to control it, most recently the immortal lich Tar-Baphon and his undead hordes. Yet Absalom has never fallen, as if the dead god Aristan guards it still. Nearly every race imaginable has representation in Absalom, hosting over 300,000 souls. Absalom's influence even stretches beyond its own dimension, with a dark mirror of the city thriving in the plane of shadow populated by fetchlings, undead, and other humanoids. Perhaps, however, Absalom is best known as the global headquarters of the legendary adventurers guild, the Pathfinder Society.
Ride till the sun comes up and down around me about 2 or 3 times.
A nation ruled by its people, Andoran flies the banner of freedom and democracy in a land dominated by despotic kings, emperors, and shadow governments. Once colonized by Taldor's 4th Army of Exploration, after thousands of years of exploitation, the region cut ties to instead join the Chelish Empire. Unfortunately, that alliance was doomed to sour as well, when the diabolical Thrunes conquered Cheliax and its holdings. After decades of cowing to Hell's servants, the People's Revolt marked the birth of a new nation, governed by the common rule. Noble lines were ended, jails were emptied, and slaves freed under the creed that all people held equal standing. Unfortunately, this policy puts Andoran at odds with their neighbors, who fear the democracy they espouse will promote similar transfers of power. In fairness, Andoran helps that animosity along. With their Eagle Knight battalions, they liberate slaves and promote abolition, living up to their reputation as the birthplace of freedom.
Smoking cigarettes in the last seat, trying to hide my sorrow from the people I meet and get along with it all.
The calistocracy of Druma gluts itself on gold, believing that the acquisition of wealth is the ultimate form of power and piety. Druma's religion, politics, economy, and culture are all managed by the resplendent bureaucracy, with High Prophet Keldor at its head and an army of priests at its defense. A land once ruled by dwarves, the people that became Druma's first citizens negotiated ownership by haggling with the feuding kingdoms, ultimately bringing peace to the region and winning a homeland, while the dwarves found themselves routed and defeated by their orc enemies. Nowhere else in Golarin can one find a religion so ubiquitous and pervasive as the prophecies of Calistrate, with every member of the society adhering strictly to its ultimate tenet: get rich or die trying.
Go down where people say y'all, sing a song with a friend, change the shape that I'm in.
Though now considered the center of dwarven society on Golarin, the Five Kings Mountains were not always so. Thousands of years ago, the dwarves lived deep beneath the earth, until a prophecy of doom foretold by Torag came to pass: Earthfall. The dwarves, literally shaken by this revelation, began their quest for sky, a mass migration fraught with peril that ended with the dwarves emerging in the mountains. They built massive sky citadels, cities inside of which the dwarves would rebuild their great kingdoms. Unfortunately, orcs had followed the dwarves out of the Darklands and laid siege to their citadels, and for hundreds of years they feuded over territory. These conflicts, combined with a number of other tragedies and traumas, fractured the dwarven kingdoms beyond repair, and no single dwarven king has ruled them together in 250 years. For now, they live as a confederacy of city-states, awaiting a dwarven king with the strength and charisma to unite them.
Get back in the game, start playing again.
time torn apart by conquest and political strife, Brevoy once existed as two nations, Isia and Rossland. The two kingdoms warred constantly with one another, struggling for survival amidst the harsh taiga, until Coral the Conqueror arrived and changed everything. With his small band of Iobarian warriors, he laid claim to both nations and swore to unite them under his banner. Neither one took Coral seriously, at least not until the Red Dragons came. Somehow, Coral had allied himself with these powerful beasts who ravaged both countries until they surrendered, giving birth to Brevoy. For over 150 years, the newly founded House Rogarvia ruled Brevoy unquestioned, until strangely, the entire family disappeared without a trace. Now the future of Brevoy is uncertain, muddled by old loyalties and rivalries, political confusion, and the ever-present fear that Coral's draconic servitors could return and destroy them all.